Well, as one Syrian traveler who came through this gate a couple of hours ago put it, there is no Syrian border anymore at Bab al-Hawa. That's the name of the Syrian side of this border crossing that I'm standing at right now. And the travelers that were trickling through today said that there was no longer any Syrian government presence on the other side, the Syrian side of this gate, that there were Free Syrian Army fighters there and a lot of torched Turkish cargo trucks and some signs of looting on the other side of the border. But nobody was stamping their passports on the Syrian side as they came through. So it does suggest that the rebels have managed to capture this strategic border crossing point, although there does seem to be some Syrian government troop presence at a location about a kilometer away from that, and a standoff between the rebels and the Syrian army there. We haven't heard any fighting today since sunrise, and if this does in fact hold, it will be a significant beachhead for the armed opposition, their first formal crossing point. It means they can start moving supplies and people across without having to smuggle anymore. They can go through a formal border crossing, which would be quite an accomplishment for the armed opposition.
All right, well, we'll see how that develops. And of course, today is the first day of fasting of Ramadan. How is that going to, what are rebels telling you about how that might affect the fighting, if at all?
Well, it depends on who you talk to about it being the first day of Ramadan, Hala. The opposition are saying Ramadan begins today, Friday. The Syrian government insists that it begins on Saturday. They can't even agree on the start of the Muslim holy month. We've seen demonstrations in Syria, in one city in particular, Binish, with the demonstrators, of course, denouncing the government as they do every Friday, but calling for victory this Ramadan, particularly in Damascus. And everybody knows that last year during Ramadan, it was incredibly bloody. The number of casualties went up dramatically. It was a very deadly month. But this year, the opposition is more armed than ever, than they were a year ago, and they're calling for victory this year. There's already been a sign of an uptick in violence, not only in Damascus, but in a town maybe 20, 30 kilometers from where we're standing now, Sarakeb, shelled mightily last night by Syrian government forces, it appears in retaliation for Syrian rebels who captured a nearby army checkpoint and killed at least a dozen soldiers, they claim. They claim also that at least 25 Syrians were killed in that rebel-held town of Sarakeb by a deadly Syrian army artillery bombardment.